Hey folks, in today's GM Diary, I'm going to be talking about plot armor. So plot armor generally refers to when you have a character that can't be killed, like they cannot die because the story is so focused on them. They essentially have this plot armor that protects them. Now, as a GM, there are times when you need a character to be alive, or you need a very specific thing to happen. So I tend to think of plot armor kind of a little bit more broader in not only is it, protecting of a character, but you can also plot armor events. Essentially, there's some aspect of the story that needs to happen, that needs to be there. So a few examples are you have a character that needs to survive because they have to do a specific thing and they're the only one who can do it. It could also be that a piece of information needs to reach the party, or it could be the party has to get through a door. It's something that needs to happen so that the story can progress as you planned it. Now, I think something that tends to catch people up with plot armor is the idea that this has to happen a specific way. Now, when you do that, it really starts to railroad everything. Instead, I tend to think of it in a no matter what happens, how we get here, we're going to get here, or this information is going to reach the party. And then I try to be flexible with how that happens. When I'm planning a session, I try and come up with a few different options for how the party might do something or how a piece of information might reach them. And then I just, make it up if they do something else or if they go off in a different direction. I'm like, okay, well, the two ways I had planned on them getting that information is not going to work. So what else am I going to do? I think being flexible really helps to keep it seem like the story is organically happening and that you're not pigeonholing or shoving your players into a certain area that is just they are creating the story with you. With the example of the piece of information needing to reach the players, this is something that I might plan for the messenger who's bringing this information, or the NPC who knows this is going to be at a specific tavern. Well, if they go somewhere else, I can just they may not necessarily know that messenger was going to be at that tavern. I could have them show up where they are going to be, or I could have them overhear a bit of information from a town crier or from two people who are sitting and just gossiping, and they get that piece of information that they needed of like, oh, so-and-so is going to this party, or whatever information it is that I need them to find out so they can follow that story plot. So if you have a character that needs to survive and they get into a big fight and the character dies, well, first of all, it's good if you know that you have that character kind of ahead of time of the fight that needs to survive, and make sure your party has plenty of opportunity to have healing potions, or you have something that kind of will help buffer any damage for that one particular character. But if that's not the case, you could have something of a traveling cleric comes by and might offer to resurrect that character for some gold, bringing that character back to life so they can continue on with the thing that only they could do. Or perhaps you work it into that player's new character, if they don't resurrect that character, has taken up that mantle of the previous character and can do whatever it is, whether it's a family member or just a spiritual succession. Or perhaps you are able to work in and you're, as that character's having a dying moment, another character runs over and you can, that magic ability or god touch, whatever it is, passes to another character in the group. Figuring out ways to kind of make that work around, and ultimately it might just be maybe fudging a little bit of dice on something, and something that's going to be a killing blow doesn't quite kill them, but comes close. And even if it's something as simple as getting through a locked door that you're like, okay, I'll put a locked door here, and you just have a session where everybody is rolling ones, or they're just rolling really low and they can't, you were figuring, oh, this will be easy for them to pick the lock, and they can't, and the lockpick breaks. Maybe it's having something of somebody walks up who has the key, and so they get the opportunity to ambush them and steal the key. Or somebody comes from the other direction through the door, and so it gives the party a chance to hide and then slip through the door before it closes, or throw something to keep it from latching. Whatever it is. Or maybe there's an alternate entrance that isn't locked or something. If the party's really struggling, have maybe a few ideas in your back pocket for, like, okay, if they can't get through it the way I planned, and they're not coming up with any ideas, how else can they get through? For me, plot armor is really only a bad thing when it really starts to feel like you're railroading the characters, and they have to do exactly what was planned, and there aren't any options, any room for flexibility or creativity. I also don't like plot armor when it applies to characters and becomes the point of, no matter what the players do, what the player characters do, even if it's really dumb, they don't die, or there aren't consequences. I think that those times it also becomes a little less fun for the players, because then it's the, like, well, I know I'm always going to succeed, so it takes that, like, challenge and risk out of the game, which a lot of people enjoy. And it can also, in a way, make the players feel like, well, I don't particularly matter to the campaign because this is all just happening anyhow, no matter what I do. So be aware of how much you're plot armoring the story, and allow for your players to fail, even if it's in small ways or some significant ways, but ways that can still allow for the overall story of the campaign to continue. So a big example is in the prequel session that I ran to my homebrew campaign, the ritual had to be done. It had to happen. I knew that was something that I plot armored. And the way I did it was I had a couple of different scenarios planned out in my head. The first one, which is what happened, was that the players are able to keep the raiding characters from stopping the ritual. The ritual happens, and the side effects happen that weren't so great. I also had it planned, if they didn't stop the invaders would partially stop the ritual, and that would cause the side effects. And I had a third plan that was, if the battle was taking forever and just really, really dragging on, I had planned, after so many rounds, or when I felt like it was getting a bit much and everybody was getting bored, then the ritual happened, they succeeded, and the side effects also happened. So I had those kind of 3 different plans to be flexible, and that was essentially like my armor, in the idea of, like, I'm protecting the different ways that things can happen so we get to the end result. So that's something to keep in mind as you're building your campaign, a few different examples of how you can plot armor not only characters, but events or things that you need to have in order to fulfill the ultimate story of your campaign. So how have you used plot armor? Do you like using plot armor? Do you hate it? Let's talk about it more down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a like and share it with somebody else who is planning a campaign or looking for some game master advice. A big thanks to our patrons, especially Arvi. If you want to support our channel, you can head over to our Patreon page and check out the perks of being a patron. And you can follow us on our Twitter and Instagram, where you can keep up with us on our day-to-day life. All right, I'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye! I hope that was a firework. Yep, I think that's fireworks. It's August, people! I can't even see them. They're just noise.